Hi, this is Amber again, back to talk to you about Flipgrid. So we've made our grids or our group, and we added a topic to that grid or group. Now the terminology in Flipgrid has changed just a little bit even while I've been creating these professional development videos. So from this point forward, grid and group can be used interchangeably. So when you first come to your Flipgrid page, you're going to see a discussion tab, and the discussion tab is going to have your groups on it, groups or grids. So we've created one grid. Remember, that grid or that group is the house that contains all those conversations. So I'm going to open up that grid or that group, and this is kind of that screen that you're used to seeing. And we're going to talk about sharing. There are two different types of ways to think about sharing. So before I show you how, I just want to make sure that we are thinking about this the same way. If you've created a group or a grid, and you're going to use that same group with a collective group of students, and it's going to be the same group all the time, you can share that group with them. Remember, we're thinking about it as a house. So if I'm going to have the same people come into this house all the time, I could just share that group or that house with them. But some people use their grids or groups simply as a place to house all their different types of conversations or their topics. So I might have one particular group of students on this topic in my grid and a different group of students coming to this topic. So in that instance, I would only share the topic with the groups of students rather than sharing the whole house. So do you want them to come into the whole house, or do you want to just have them go in a room? That kind of is a way to think about it. So we're going to talk about sharing both ways, sharing your group or grid, which is your whole house, or just sharing a topic. So we're going to learn both ways to share groups and topics. So let's take a look at that. So back in my flipping for Flipgrid that we made, this is the grid we made, the group we made, and then we have put this what do you think topic, and remember this topic was already there. So there are several different share buttons, and that may be confusing. This is my house, this is my group or grid. If I click share there, I'm sharing the entire house. So if I create more topics, whoever I've shared this entire group with, they're going to be able to see all those topics. But if I want to just share a particular topic, then I'm going to use this share button. So I'm going to talk about the whole share first. So if you want to share every topic you're ever going to make in this grid, this is the share button you will use. And basically there are several different ways that you can share that. You could copy and just send them this join link so they can join your entire group. There's also a way that you can create a QR code with it. All you have to do is download or right-click copy and paste. There's also an embed code if you wanted to put that in a web page or something. Microsoft Teams if you use that. And Remind if you also are a Remind user, but this is the one I'm going to highly recommend you use. If you're a Google Classroom user at all, this is the best way to share this entire group. Now, if you share the group, they're not going to always get notifications when you create a topic. So you may want to instead share topics, but if you want to share the whole group and have them go constantly to that group to check and see if there's new things, you can do that as well. But all you're going to do here is click Share to Classroom. So what I'm going to do is go to this drop down and choose a class. So I'm going to choose one of my classes here. So if I'm going to put it in this PD class, then I choose, do I want to make an assignment, a question, an announcement, or a material? Now remember, those announcements are only going to go to the stream. So if you want it to show up in the classwork tab, you're going to use one of these other three. I usually just create an assignment and say, you need to go here and do this. That way they can mark it complete after they've done whatever it is that they're going to do. So that's basically the way that you do that if you're using the share the whole grid. Now, I like to share by topics. This provides them a reminder, but it also gives me a place, particularly because I use Google Classroom, that I can always mark it complete once they've finished it, and I can keep track of each individual topic they've completed, rather than just having one share for the whole grid, and then I have to come up with a separate way to decide if they've done each one of them. So this is why I like using the share that's at the bottom. So if I want them to complete the what do you think topic, I'm going to click on share, and I want you to notice it looks identical to the grid share, because you can share it in all the same ways. That's why you need to be careful when you're clicking the share button that you click the button you really intend to. If you want to share the topic, you're going to click one in the bottom. If you want to share everything, your whole house and all your topics, you're going to do the one at the top. So here's the one that's sharing the topic. And this is about what do you think? And this is the one I want to be completed. Now, if I don't use Google Classroom, for example, if I'm just doing this for fun with a PD activity, or if I'm just doing this really quickly for parents, I can copy this here and then I can paste it in an email, and whoever gets that can complete that. Remembering, however, that I set up my grid to only allow those with hcpsnc.org and stu.hcpsnc.org to complete that. So remember, you also have to think about if you're all of a sudden wanting parents to be able to do this, or an outside group to be able to do this, you're going to have to set up your grid thinking about that. So right now I couldn't really send this to parents. So again, I have my Google Classroom share and all the other QR codes and so forth where I could get them to complete that. So I'm going to go ahead and click Share to Classroom, and you'll notice it looks identical to how it did before, where I'm going to choose my class from that drop-down list. So I can pick one of my classes. So if I wanted to assign this to this class, then I can create the assignment, and when I click go, it's going to take me to Google Classroom so I can finish putting in all the information for that assignment. So that is one way that you can share things. Now we are going to ask you in your assignment to share your topic with us in different ways. So when you use these share buttons, the blue share buttons, you're actually inviting someone to participate in your Flipgrid, to create a video, to be a student or participant. So now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk about sharing so that you have someone else to help you. And in Flipgrid, if you want another teacher or staff member to help you manage your entire house of topics, you can invite someone to be a co-pilot of your grid or group. And that's up at the very top. So you'll see at the top I have Manage Your Co-Pilots. So if I click on Manage Your Co-Pilots, it shows me that I already have a couple people here that are part of my flight team and my Flipgrid. And if you want to invite another teacher to help you manage this Flipgrid, this is a great place to put in your special area teachers or your special support teachers, whether that's an ESL teacher or an EC teacher that you want to invite in so that they can actually see the videos and content that their students that they support help. This is a great way to do that. So you can invite co-pilots in. And so all you would do is enter their email and click invite, and they would just have to accept the invitation. And because we logged in with Google, this is a simple tool to be able to invite other people to help you manage your grid. You also can remove people if you need to remove someone as a co-pilot. The co-pilot can come into this grid or this group and manage all the topics underneath. So you just have to add them the one time, and then they'll be able to help you with no matter what future topics you create. So two types of sharing. The blue share buttons, I want you to be able to participate in the conversation. The co-pilot button is someone who's going to help me manage, and that also can help me moderate or do other things, edit, look through, grade them, that sort of thing. So that is sharing. Now, once you have students that start coming into your grid and filling things out, you'll notice there's a student tab. The student tab is going to show you anyone who is a student in your class that has logged in with Google. It's also going to show you how many videos they did, when it was last accessed, and the last time they made a video. You also are going to have an action button that has you enabled to block a student. So if you have a student that's has done something inappropriate and you want to block them from being able to participate temporarily until you can manage that, then you can use the Actions Block Student button. So lots of different ways to be able to share with students and manage students. So let's see what else we can learn about Flipgrid.